always start with the smaller markets that don't cost you that much money. That's how I started because I didn't know what I was doing. Zero didn't know what I was doing. So if you start small and you make mistakes in that first market and it's not super busy, it's not a huge market, but you're going to not lose money, that's your best bet to start off with.
Welcome to the Charcuterie Launch Lab Podcast, where passion meets profit. If you've ever dreamed of turning your love for charcuterie, or food of any kind, into a thriving online business, well then you're in the right place. We're Andrea and Patti, the Grazing Biz Sisters. With over 60 years combined experience as a chef and digital marketer, we have walked in your shoes starting our own online businesses. We'll share all of our tips, advice, struggles, and best strategies to help you launch and grow your own online foodie business with ease. The Charcuterie Launch Lab is a space for all food creators and entrepreneurs just like you. Let's dive in and get your yummy business launched online, one board at a time. Well, it's the Grazing Biz Sisters back again. Finally, we just took a little hiatus for the last couple of weeks during Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day, so we thought we'd take a little break for ourselves. But anyway, I hope everyone had a great holiday. By the time you listen to this, it's probably going to be Christmas. I don't know.
Hopefully not.
I know. I hope people are binging our podcast.
Crack ourselves up for sure.
I know, we're cheap entertainment. Well, welcome back. I'm Patti. This is Sister Andrea. We are here this way.
I'm not sure which direction I'm on.
We are here with our newest podcast, and we're happy to be back today. So it's actually because it is the spring, we thought it is definitely market season, right? It's outdoor market season. So we're going to talk today about the things you need to consider, do ahead of time to get into a market or some sort of outdoor event, right, Andrea? And so we were actually looking, both Andrea and I were looking at actually setting, I'm going to go out and hang out with her, an event this summer up in, where were we talking? Sedona? Was it Sedona? Or is it Prescott? Well, few.
Prescott. And then I'm probably going to do a Sedona Wine Fest as well in the fall. And, so we have wineries in Arizona, northern Arizona. And so a lot of them, so in those local regions, which is where I live, they have a lot of these kind of things go on. So I would say, and the reason we're talking about this is because everybody's into the charcuterie cart thing. Everybody talks about it. So we are talking about this to help those that want to be a part of a market where they're going to go and sell individually. Charcuterie, little whatever they're going to put them in. So we're going to talk about that.
Versus going to get paid in advance for a wedding, like a catering event.
This is where you would, need to be set up properly to be able to go and sell these things 10, 15, $20 or whatever it is you're going to charge.
Yeah. So we're going to try to hit as much of this process as we can. So we have a little outline we're going to try to follow. So as always, I usually like to just prompt my sister in the things that she needs to tell us about, because a lot of this I'm not privy to every minute of the day like she is when it comes to doing the food stuff. So I'm going to kind of just throw out some questions and things that we know that we have to worry about, or Andrea has to worry about when she's out doing events, but also what we get asked a lot from our people in our in our groups. By the way, if you haven't joined our free group, make sure you do. If you go on Facebook, we have a free group. It's called Start Your Charcuterie Business. Pretty easy to remember, right? So go look us up. The link is in the show notes, so you can go to that as well. But join our free group because we're here to help you grow an existing business or start a new one. So wherever you're at in the process, we're here to help you with that. But we get a lot of questions in there about all various things. So what we do here in our podcast is surrounding those kind of questions, because you guys are out doing it, right? So that's cool. So yeah, let's get started. First, I guess my question is, Andrea, where would somebody go to look for events in their area, or not in their area if they're planning on traveling? If you wanted to do an event, what kind of events are we talking about? You mentioned the wine event, which I actually think is probably one of the best, because what pairs great with wine,
Yeah,
cheese
yeah.
and meat. But yeah, let's start with that. What do you do when you're finding events for yourself?
So when I first started doing different markets and things, of course, you can shoot for your farmers markets, local farmers markets. Some of them have all these restrictions about what you can sell and what you can't sell and blah, blah, blah. So there you can start with that. Just look locally for farmers markets. The other place
Where do
is,
you, wait, back up. Where do you look for those though? I mean, where
well,
would you
so
look?
if you just do a simple search in your, farmers markets near me, if you
Google? Okay.
an area, especially like Phoenix, where you are, there's a bazillion of them.
Yeah.
So, not so many up here where I live in the northern part of Arizona, but they do exist. And so that's kind of where you start. But the other place, Facebook is, I mean, it has its down things, Facebook, but it has the good things. And one of the good things is those groups, which are usually called market vendor groups or vendor groups or something along those lines. They will also have, in my case, I live in a Tri-City area, rural,
Hmm. Hmm.
but like for example, the Facebook group is called Quad City Vendors, or
Oh,
you might have Arizona vendors, or you might have New York vendors, whatever, So if you look those up on your Facebook, that's where you start and you join those. And then what happens is all the people in there, including the administrator, will start saying, hey, there's a market going on in such and such place. And then they are usually giving you the all the info, not the information to sign up, but the information of where to go to sign
to
up.
sign up. So a
Right.
lot of times
A
in those,
website.
yeah. So, and then I know you have a few other resources, but while we're talking about that, places to sign up, it's like they might redirect you to like a third party company that actually does all the sign up stuff. Is that what I
Right. Right.
understand?
But
Yeah.
first, I want to get into something when we talk about the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
There is scams out there, bad ones,
Ooh.
bad ones. They are picking on people with small businesses, crafters, people
Mm.
like us, going to these markets. And what they'll do is pretend that they're having an event, or they'll
Oh.
pretend they're part of a bigger event. Like there's a huge event in Tempe, every twice a
Oh.
year. And they will pretend to be those people and take money from you. So here's how you get around that. Number one, if you have any suspicion at all, when in doubt, don't do it. If you, they will always, every single vendor that you go through will have a website, or they'll have a
Yeah.
legitimate
About the
email.
event in general, right? So anybody
Right.
in the public who's going to go to it, if
Right.
you
So
go
if
out,
you
yeah,
can't find that person, or you can't find something, don't do it.
the event
They'll
organizer, yeah,
$5, they'll take it, and it's gone. And then the event either actually doesn't exist, or this person is not part of the actual organization of the event. It's awful. It's awful
shifty,
what
shifty,
happens.
shifty.
It's
Well,
terrible.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that
Yeah,
because
I
it's
forgot
so
about it
easy.
actually until we started talking about it. So
Yeah, that
I've
that
almost been scammed a few times, and now I've learned to like call directly. Let's say it's a town event or something. I will call places, or if it's in a parking lot of some place, I will call that whatever's in that parking lot and say, do you have this event going on?
yeah,
Like let's say there's a grocery store there. You call them and they'll always know if it's
yeah.
legitimate.
Oh,
So
good
there's
call.
ways, but be aware, because people
Okay.
are awful,
That
and they
that's
pick on
a
poor people that are trying to just make
just
money on the
make,
side.
yeah, that's too bad.
It's
Well,
terrible,
I'm glad you brought it up, but it's happening everywhere in the world, so
for
why
sure.
should we not be surprised about it,
Don't do it
unfortunately.
through Facebook is
Yeah,
my point.
if you well, yeah, don't go
Don't
directly through
don't
a link. Yeah.
Right. Don't go through Facebook Messenger, as and send money to them and sign up and blah blah blah.
Right.
They have to have something legitimate, or they're not. So
Yeah, it
with
was
that said,
good. I actually had a good question before you got me off
for sure.
sidetrack, which I'm glad you did that, but now I'm trying to remember what the question
Oh, we
was. So
were
it's have to
talking
come
about the
back.
third party.
Oh yeah, well, the third party vendor companies that would take the most, but it all makes sense because if you get sent to a third party vending company that actually is legit, you just want to make sure they're legit. So you
Right.
do want to do your research on all of that. with regard to it. Oh, I know what my question was. I know when I used to do these years ago with my donut vending company, which if you listen to our podcast in the past, I talk about that 100 years ago, I actually had a mini donut machine that we would do vending events with. I always asked what kind of foot traffic, because I think knowing, okay, how big is this event going to be? That's going to help you a lot knowing how much you need to make, but also whether or not it makes sense for you to go and how much you're spending for the event. So talk to me about pricing to get into these events. What are you looking at in small towns or a town? I mean, I know it can run the gamut. Are they going to charge you per sale? They charge you just a flat rate? Like, let's discuss that a little.
Never done an event that I know that there are people that take percentage of what
Hmm.
you, and it's basically on the honor system because they have no way of really tracking it, but there's some that take a percentage. I prefer the ones that just do the flat rate, and it can
Yeah.
be anywhere from $25 to 100. The event that I'm applying for today is going to be $385 for a 2-day event. So 385 for 2 days
2 days?
that's not
Two
bad.
full days. I know. I
Yeah,
looked
two
online
full
last night.
days.
Yeah, I
So
looked
it's a
online.
Saturday and a Sunday.
Okay,
And
yeah.
some of them will run the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It just depends on the time of year and what's going on. So it's all relative, but you have to, really think in terms. I think it's one of those things where you start small and you get bigger. So
Yeah.
always start with the smaller markets that don't cost you that much money. That's how I started because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Zero didn't know what I was doing. So if you start small and you make mistakes in that first market and it's not super busy, it's not a huge market, but you're going to not
Right.
lose money. That's your best bet to start off with. I'm
Is
not afraid of this one that I'm signing up for today. I think it's going to be a good 20,000 people over the course of 2 days. I'm not afraid of that at all because I've got it down now. But when you're first starting out, definitely go small.
So the fear can be both ways. Fear is it's too big for you and you're not prepared to deal with, especially if you're by yourself, right? Because you and I are going to be at this event together that we've discussed. But so there's that fear, but then there's the fear that it's too small and you've prepared too much, and because there's perishable food involved, that could really suck. And then you're dealing with schlepping all the stuff in and then getting it all out of there. And, I
Mhm.
mean, you and I talked about, because this event would be new for us, we would not worry because we'd be close to a Costco. And if we could run over to Costco after the event and, after the first day, if we run out,
Right,
right?
right.
So,
All
because,
the product that we are going to serve at this one is going to come only from Costco because that's where we'll be, is
yeah,
the Costco's
close.
like miles away.
Yeah.
So even if we had to send your husband out during the day, we could do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. He'll be
So,
around. So that'll be
um,
good.
anyways,
Um,
but what I mean with the smaller ones to learn how to do it, we can tell you all day how to do it, but I don't suggest, go to a small event,
Start small.
farmers
Yeah.
market, whatever, that's once a week. It's maybe 4 or 5 hours long. Make the minimum amount of prep for it. And if you run out, you run out. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
You don't want to
Right.
run the first hour, but make enough that you think to go through the day. And then that way you learn. I mean, you're
Hmm.
only ever going to learn by doing anyway.
Yeah.
So
So
that
I
would be my
think
suggestion.
So I think as far as the event, choosing the event as well as the target audience, like so in this case, the wine event is amazing. I did really really well with those donuts at a it was a race it was a racetrack where they were doing, I can't remember what it was. It was some, yeah, I think it was like a NASCAR event. Did really well with that, but then didn't do so well at a fancy golf event,
Right.
because
Where
those
they're really
people, just a different
yeah.
demographic, right? It's been,
Mhm.
well, partly I had to spend a crap ton to be there, so you have to trade that out. The other thing I want to mention is what else can you sell that you could make money on the side? And where I made a lot of money at one of the events by just making a big, huge cooler of ice or iced tea and or lemonade that I sold literally, because in Arizona it's so hot here. And if they let you do that, so that's the other part of it, because I don't know that you've run into this problem, but I definitely did many times when I was asking about the events is that sometimes they force you to sell their liquid products, like their Coke products or and that if that happens, you either don't sell them at all because they don't want you competing with everybody else because everybody else has to sell that Coke product,
Mhm.
or you're better off really finding an event where you don't have to be tied into those restrictions because you could sell coffee and tea and water and really make a killing on all that,
Right, because
honestly.
those are literally pennies to the ounce. So,
Exactly. So much you can make charging a couple bucks for a bottle of water that you paid, what, 20 cents for, So you just get a whole big cases at Costco. So those are things you and I will be talking about in this event.
mhm.
And I definitely want to do that because it's going to be in the middle of summer and people only want to stand in line once. If they're not getting wine or they're getting wine in another place, they can come get water from us. I mean, we certainly aren't going to be selling, wine and things like that or whatever. It's a wine
Right.
event, right?
Yeah,
But
so we can sell
yeah.
liquor, but
Okay, so the other part about all of that then, now you're signing up, you want to find out where is your location going to be in the event. Now I know the last time tell us about your last event that you were either inside or outside the gates. What was the story with that one?
yeah, yeah. Okay, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I had to
So
remind you because I thought that was a great story. And
I've
I'm
done
like,
so many, but that was the last one I did, which was like a month ago. And so I went to this event that, for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure what was going on with that, but they gated off the actual event space and they charged money to go in to
like 10
this.
bucks or something,
It
right?
was a vintage craft fair. So everybody was based on vintage stuff. I don't have vintage stuff, but they let me go because they liked what I had. But anyways, so consequently, I sort of signed up at the last minute. I go, I don't have anything going on this weekend. I wonder if anything's out there. And I found it and I called the lady and said, do you have any space? She goes, well, we don't have space inside the venue, but we have space that we're creating for people that can make their booth smaller in our parking lot. And I go, okay, so I won't be inside the ticketed area. And she goes, no. And I go, that's fine. I ended up being in what I thought was the prime spot because there were a lot of people who got up there, even though they were donating a portion of their proceeds of the tickets to, like, I don't know, feeding hungry people or something. I can't remember what that was. But anyways, I ended up on the outside. And so people didn't want to pay to go into it. And so
Yeah.
what they were doing was coming across the street to this parking lot and they were shopping with the few vendors that were there. And so I made a killing in that first day because of that. And so consequently, she comes to me the next day and says, here's the thing for our next vintage market. If you sign up today, we'll put you inside the event. And I looked at her and I go, I don't want to be inside the event. I want to be where I'm at right now.
And I think her bell
She
went
just
on and
kind
went,
of like
uh-oh.
rolled her eyes and walked away. But
I,
hey, I mean, I went in through that event. I walked through it, all the cool stuff. People had really cool stuff, but like I wouldn't pay $10 to go in there. Like, why would I pay $10 to go in and spend money? I mean, that doesn't even
well,
make sense.
when you had access to anybody and everybody who was
Right.
walking around outside
It's
that
the
didn't even
neighborhood.
have any
Right.
interest in going in, okay, so that's a really extreme example of location. But even if you are in an event that you are paying to be in, and if you look and you see that you're not in, like you're tucked back in a corner somewhere,
Right.
and if you've never done the event before, what I would be doing for sure is asking the people where the best locations are. They may charge you a little bit more for it, but it might be
Right.
totally worth it, right? And then
Mhm.
and making sure like what's the experience like in certain areas. See if they can give you a event map, right? Something like that, so you can see. So I think that's really key. And
And
then
most of the
yeah,
time, like in this event that I'm filling out for us today, it does ask me what are your top three preferred spots. The problem is, for some reason with this one, they didn't give me a map, so I just took a stab in the dark. But I just still, they a lot of times they will ask you, or like for example, a corner booth of any given event is usually more expensive because you'll have 2 to 3 sides available to.
right. Yeah.
The ones in the middle, like when I went to the Fountain Hills one, that was less expensive. So it's all relative, but you want to make sure you're still in a spot where you're
A
not
lot of
like,
traffic and you're not tucked in
yeah.
a corner where people
Well,
don't
and you
find
also
you.
don't really want to be next to the bathrooms just because it stinks. And like there's things like that you need to
Yeah.
consider when it comes down to choosing your spot if they allow it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So, and
Well, and I
you
would also think that before you sign up, that you make sure that there's not other vendors, a lot of vendors that are similar to what you're doing. So, and I would think a lot of these events wouldn't really want that either, and that they would prevent it, but that's not saying it's not going to happen. So, how do you
let's
know
roll
about
into
that?
that,
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Okay, so we will give you information regarding so go to your Facebook groups. There's a my favorite one is Zapplication, Z with a
Okay.
zebra, zapplication.org. That is one of the best marketing, finding the markets near you and across the country. So they are a third-party platform. They are reliable. You don't have to worry about scams on there. You do get charged, a fee. But with that said, rolling into that, a lot of the really good events, the really, really good ones, once you have established yourself and you feel good about what you're doing and you're ready to go for the bigger events with thousands of people instead of hundreds. Um, what was I going? Oh, so you go with you'd have to do a jury process. So basically they have a board of people that will go through your application, look at your photos. That's the other reason why you want to start small because you need to have photos.
Okay. Wash your hair before you.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
No,
I mean,
kidding.
most of the time I take photos because I'm by myself and there's nobody in it. But, photos of your booth, photos of your products,
Makes sense.
whatever it is you're going to do. So, and then the jury decides whether or not they want you. And if they do want you, they also are paying attention to how many people are selling whatever. So
Yeah.
they don't want to have 100 people selling
The
charcuteries.
same thing. Yeah.
Right. They'll maybe have one or two at a large wine festival just to be able to spread them out. But that's just my guess because we
Yeah.
haven't actually done a charcuterie one like we're about to do.
Yeah, I was
But
laughing yesterday. You were telling me about your discussion with the people because you had to call them and you could hear the
yeah,
lady in the background going, "Oh my God, I
I
want that." You were telling
know.
them what our idea
At
was.
some point we're gonna show you guys
Yeah, we're not ready yet
we're
to tell you. We're gonna
not
do,
ready
yeah.
because we don't want to give up all our secrets.
Yeah.
This particular concept that we got going on with the charcuterie thing, we're not talking about just throwing it in a boat and
Yeah.
whatever. It's going to be super cool.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that at some point when that happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, this lady was just psyched. She was
Yeah.
like,
She was
"Oh my
like, you
God,
hear in the background. Yeah, just
those
never
pictures
heard
are
of
going
anything.
up today." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I'm doing it now and it's a process, but it's worth it once you get established and you understand what you're doing, it's worth it. So with that said, there's the juried ones are going to be the most profitable. They're also going to be the most
Expensive.
expensive, and you really got to have your crap together. I was going to say
Yeah.
the but you gotta have it together to go to those big ones. Don't choose those right out the gate if you're not ready.
Yeah, if you don't
And
prepare. So, while we're on that subject, I guess and we haven't even talked about this, but we haven't talked about pricing or anything. But ideally, if you're going to go to an event that's an all-day event like that, and we're paying 350, really, when you think about it, we could probably make that in about 15 minutes based on
you
what I know
probably
we're
will.
going to be selling.
Yeah,
At an event like this, people expect to spend more for things anyway. But uh,
right.
I, I mean, I'm literally asking you, I haven't even asked you this yet. What do you think we could make, say, in a day or an hour or 2 days, an event like this? Now, that's not counting the expenses. Let's just say gross, I'm just curious, right?
Right,
I mean,
right. We're going to
yeah,
talk about what my guesstimate right now, the goal is I would like to make 3,000 on that first Saturday. That doesn't mean, it could rain and we
in
won't make
one day.
shit.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't,
true.
yeah. So it depends. But I would like to see 3,000 on that first Saturday and 6,000, 5 to 6,000 over the
Total.
2 days.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually Sunday's going to be a little bit more quiet,
They
isn't it?
usually
Usually
slower,
is. Yeah,
yeah, until people get out of church and they start waking up and
right.
oh hey, let's go down to the wine fest. So and then it'll be busy for only a couple of hours, maybe
Right.
like to 2 o'clock. And
That's
then
good to know. Yeah, I remember that now with the donut vending thing.
usually that's the way it is. But
Yeah.
Saturday typically kills it. So the majority of the money I expect to make that day. And it could be even more. Like I said, we could be sending Mike, your husband, out to Costco in the middle of the day. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, I'm all for that. He's got nothing else to do.
He's going to
He's
be
just
there.
walking around drinking wine, getting drunk. I have to keep him busy. Um,
Watching
I am so
football or
enthralled.
something.
I know I'm so enthralled with this whole thing. And I told Andrew when we got on here, this doesn't need to be long, but now I've got so many questions
I
that I'm
know.
hoping I don't forget. All right,
Good
so
part.
applying online, you would apply online. You might have to have a fee. There would probably be a fee possibly that you would pay for just applying, but then there would be if you get in or whatever. Is there
Right.
usually a fee on these places just to
So in this
apply?
case, because we are doing, and I just keep going back to this only because I'm working on it right now, and it's not the
But
first
they're
time.
not all like this though.
Yeah, they're not all like this, but this one is a big event and it's juried and so I'm going to pay $40 today just to apply. And
Hmm.
that's not refundable. If you don't get in, you don't get in, you lose your 40. But I mean, charcuterie, if you're doing that or whatever it is you're doing, most food items, if you have something really original, is going to pass. But so then they give you a date. In this case, I want to say it said July 1st. So they're going to make their decision in the next coming weeks. So I
So you
have
have
a
a
deadline.
deadline. Okay.
Yeah, the deadline to do this application is today.
Hmm.
And then but I could still do it next week, but it would be a $70 application fee
Okay.
after the 1st of June. And then I think there is an actual cutoff, like we're done. And then they do their process and decide who's doing what and where everybody's going to be. Then they send you the contract and you have to sign it. And at that point, they'll say, in this case, I want to say it's July 1st, you need to pay the 385 is what we're paying for the weekend. You have to pay the 385 before that date or you lose your spot.
And how big is this spot
Always
in this?
create a wait
Yeah.
list. Always create a wait list for those people who don't pay or
Hmm.
don't fill out their forms on time because inevitably there's just unreliable people out there and that happens. So, so in that case, you would just not get your spot and you would lose it and someone else would take it
And
on.
normally the space size is going to be what, like 10 by 10? Or
In
I mean,
this
normally.
case, it's a 10 by 15,
Oh,
all the better for us because we can spread out. And that's why I decided to add some more products, not just our charcuterie products, but other things that I have,
yeah.
because I knew we'd have enough space for
Space
it
for
all.
other stuff. And that'll look good because people will
Yeah,
catch the
they'll bring it
eye.
in. It's not a
Right.
bad thing. And why not make
So you kind of touched on it already, but the people, the jury's looking for to make sure you're professional. Did you have to provide anything related to licensing or food
Yes.
safety? And what are you doing for, washing your
Yeah.
hands? Did they
I'll
ask
have
any
to.
about that in the forms?
Yeah, so you have to do your research, like I always tell people
Yeah.
regarding local health department laws when it comes down to vending. Most places will, in this case, I'm going to have to get a special event food vending license from
Okay.
the town of Prescott. And,
Okay.
so you need to check in on all of those things. You do want to have insurance, which I already have. You do want to have in case somebody gets sick or something happens, you're covered and they don't take your house.
Oh,
So
God,
you
yeah.
want to make sure you have your business license. In this case, they are asking for the business license.
Okay.
In this case, they are asking for your EID, which is your identification federal. They are asking for a TPT license
Which
number as well,
is
which I have.
transaction privilege
Right.
tax license,
That's
which you
for sales
get,
tax,
yeah,
basically,
sales tax for
for
your state.
state.
Yeah.
And of course, then the health department stuff comes into play. I have a cottage license in Arizona. I can prep and do all the work from my house. In other states, most
Most
states actually, unfortunately,
can't
48
do that.
states, we know for sure you have to go get a
Prep
kitchen,
things. Yeah.
prep things in a commercial kitchen, which you can rent and
Hmm.
do all that stuff. So you got to figure all that out. We're very fortunate. with
Yeah,
this.
we really, really are, honestly. I mean,
It's
and that's all new in Arizona. If you haven't heard
right.
that, if you're really
So
interested, move to Arizona.
So make sure you've got all those things
Yeah.
in place. And when you apply for the food vending license, whether it be a permanent one or a temporary one, they'll tell you you need to have a water thing to wash your hands and you need to have gloves. And they'll tell you everything you need to have for it. Because I
Every
assume
place.
everybody's the same, but I don't want to tell you all what you should and shouldn't have when it comes to that. The health department will tell you.
Hey, hey, hey. So after we started recording this entire great podcast, we realized it was kind of long. So we're actually going to break this one up into two. So you want to make sure you come back for the second half of this because Chef Andrea, you really kicked some ass filling people in on some good information. You don't want to miss it.
Sometimes when you're passionate about things, you can't stop talking.
I
You
know. Well, yeah, you'll hear us. And at the end, it's kind of a giggle fest because there
we
was.
we looked at it and went, holy crap, that was a little
It
long.
was
And
long, but we were also laughing about, just making
yeah,
sure that everybody's going to do a good job with their event. And anyway, we want to make sure you price things right. So we had a little kind of fun at the end. So make sure you stick around. Come back. We're going to post the second one. We'll post part two in a few days. Okay. So you don't have to sit around and wait too long for it. So make sure you hang in. All right. Thanks, Chef Andrea. We'll see you on part two. Come on back.